my name is Claire Chino. I am with a company called Itochu Corporation, which is a Fortune Global 500 company. I'm now head of global communications, but back in 2006, I was in the legal department. And since then, I've been general counsel for Itochu, head of the North American operation, board on the supervisory committee, and now head of global communications back in Tokyo. I'm also a trained lawyer. I'm a California lawyer. So before joining Itochu, I was partner of an international law firm. And I sing from side to side.
Yeah.
I'm a semi-professional classical singer. So that's what I do.
Yeah. Well, I'm not sure if semi-professional, Claire. I've heard you sing. I've attended your concert in New York. So,
Yes.
I would put you in that professional level, but, here we go.
Thank you.
You were part of the first group, the very first group, Claire, who met in Hong Kong in 2006, which basically helped lay the foundation for what has now become Asia 21 Next Gen Fellowships, and we are celebrating the 20th anniversary this year. So, right. Just want to go back to, looking back to that first gathering in Hong Kong 20 years ago. Was there a moment from that inaugural gathering that proved especially meaningful or memorable, influential in shaping your journey forward?
Absolutely. So, of course, my classmates, the class of 2006 classmates, including people like Eric Garcetti, James Kondo, Gunsu Lin, of course, B. Kim. Back then they were leaders, but I think over the 20 years, I had no idea that they would become such great leaders. So it was really wonderful to get to know them in their relatively early stage of leadership. So that was that, and also I'm actually remembering Din, who was an artist from Vietnam. He actually stood out quite a bit in my memory because although he wasn't very talkative, his artwork was amazing. And I really very fondly remember being impressed by his artistry. So that's, the class of 2006. But in addition to my classmates, I was very much struck by the group of people at Asia Society who are behind making sure that this Asia 21, project continued. And of course, Sanjeev, you were one of them. I think you joined in 2007 or 8.
Yeah, but, I was there right. I didn't attend the first meeting, right. But then I was there from 8 onwards, correct.
Yes. So, but people like you, also Jamie Metzel, Mike, Hee Chung, you guys have been really great supporters. And I think without that, I'm not so sure how we would have continued for the last 20 years. So thank you very much for that. I was also very much struck by the leadership of the Asia Society. So Vishaka Desai was the president of the Asia Society when I became Asia 21. And to see an Asian woman be such a great leader, that was very inspirational. And also the supporters of not just the Asia 21, but also the Asia Society. So Claudia Kahn of Merrill Lynch, I think, financially Merrill Lynch supported, but in addition to that, she was very committed to the project. And especially being in Hong Kong in 2006, the Hong Kong Center wasn't built yet. But people like Ronnie Chan enthusiastically talking about what a beautiful center there was going to be in the future. So, all of those great things, not just my class, but the office within Asia Society and the supporters of Asia Society and Asia 21. Those are the things that strike me, even today, 20 years later.
Right. And those relationships endure, right, Claire?
Absolutely.
Yeah. And I've met you, I mean, you are from 2006 class, but there are many from earlier classes, 7, 8, who continue to attend the summit at their own dime and time, which is more precious. And, you have been, you've always been a great uh, advisor, counseling us how to expand the program. But I think I always say the heart and soul of Asia 21 are the alumni themselves. And
Absolutely. So,
yeah,
from other classes, I am in contact with Wenchi as well as Love Sang, and their leadership is amazing, from which I continue to learn
right,
greatly.
right. And even that you mentioned about the center, and that's another thing. Asia 21 was always a global initiative. So, 2006 in Hong Kong, every year we've gone to various different centers, and they've been a great partner in organizing. I mean, we were in Manila last year, and Cheng and the whole Philippines 21 folks were really instrumental in making it such a memorable summit last year. So,
Exactly. You're
uh,
absolutely right. So I have been to places that I wouldn't have gone had it not been for the Asia 21, including Bangladesh, or some of the regions within Taiwan, where BKIM is a representative.
right.
It's been a great journey.
Right. I mean, yeah, now that you mentioned Bangladesh, that was 2012, Claire, and I was struck by a big cohort from Japan. And I learned from you that Itochu had operations in Bangladesh, right? Am I correct?
So yes,
Yeah.
we are the first Japanese company to set up an office in Bangladesh, even before the independence of Bangladesh. So I was actually delighted that I was able to also visit our office
Mm.
in Bangladesh.
The spirit of Asia 21, Claire, we talk about, how, I mean, I've heard this from alumni themselves about, how Asia 21 has it's got this ability to bring people together whose paths might not have crossed otherwise. And there are many anecdotal examples. Uh, just when you arrived in Hong Kong back in February 2006, I'm sure you knew James Kondo, but did you know anyone else from that cohort?
No, I didn't. And I think one of the really nice things about the Asia 21 is that it takes you out of this bilateral framework. So, I've spent quite a bit of time in the United States. And although I'm from Japan, the Asian people that I meet in the United States are sort of in this US context. So I think up until really Asia 21, it was sort of this bilateral way of thinking in the Japan and the United States, and maybe the Asian people that you meet in New York or wherever. But I think what is really wonderful about the Asia 21 network is that you actually meet people on the ground in Asia. And that really brings you the multilateral perspective.
Yeah.
And I don't necessarily think that that is my unique experience. I think that it may be also the case for the other Asia 21 fellows, where the way they look at things may be a bit more bilateral, not so much multilateral until the Asia 21 experience. So,
Right. I just remembered something else, Claire. I think you had talked about peer learning, and I think through all these various conversations we have, as in a formal sessions, but sort of like on the sidelines, over nightcaps. You had talked about how you've also learned about Japan. Interacting with fellows who have who are inquisitive, who have questions, who want to learn, want to share. Could you talk about? I think you talked about visiting Yasukuni Shrine, right? So
yes.
maybe
So I
let's talk
think,
about that. Yeah.
sure. So, as I mentioned, in the sort of this bilateral conversation, uh, wherever we talk about, US Japan,
Yeah.
it's about World War II, maybe Pearl Harbor, Hiroshima, Nagasaki. But there's actually so much more to that. to World War II than just that, those significant incidents that we learn much in Japanese textbooks. And so in the Asia 21 community, and because we're so comfortable with each other, people ask me questions that if you're not friends, you might not necessarily ask or comment upon. And one of the questions that kept on coming to me was, why does Yasukuni Shrine exist? Why are the war criminals actually, honored at Yasukuni Shrine? A question to which I had no answer. I'm actually Christian. So Yasukuni Shrine is a place that I never thought of visiting. It was sort of seen, in my view, as a right-wing place. I didn't really know how these war criminals were treated at Yasukuni Shrine. So it gave me an opportunity. And by the way, this is another wonderful thing. Within the Asia Society Network, there's contact at the Yasukuni Shrine. So, even though you're living here in Japan, you may not necessarily get a leader from Yasukuni Shrine to talk to you. But thanks to the Asia Society Network, I think James actually also visited with me too. But we were able to go to Yasukuni Shrine and talk to those who are in management of Yasukuni Shrine. And, well, first of all, I learned that it's not a cemetery, which I knew, but it's not like people are buried there. It's only their souls that are respected there. And the person said that it's sort of like, it's like a tub of water. It's like a bathtub full of water. Those who deceased, their spirits are poured into this bathtub. And it's not, they're all commingled. And it's not like you can actually take one person's spirit out of that bathtub. Or it's sort of like a candle light. It's sort of like this light that you can't necessarily separate a flame into individual flames. So, there are people who are saying that we're Christians, we don't want our ancestors' spirit to be honored at the Yasukuni Shrine, or, even within Japan, and certainly people from outside Japan. And whether, I agreed with that or not, with respect to what Yasukuni Shrine was saying, I certainly understood where they were coming from. At least I understood their philosophy. So that's number one. The second thing is, I guess this is 10 years ago now, at the Japan summit. One of the projects that some of my Japanese Asia 21 fellows and I proposed was a textbook project. So we wanted to learn how certain events were portrayed in their various textbooks, like the comfort women issue, some of those things that are seen to be controversial issues, because children learn from textbooks. Right. The same events, let's say the bombing of Hiroshima, Pearl Harbor, how are these portrayed in the various textbooks, US, Japan, some of the other Asian countries? Because I think that would be a very interesting, study. Through which, actually, the Asia Society introduced me to Carol Gluck of Columbia University. So had it not been for the Asia Society, I probably wouldn't have come across such a great historian as Carol. And to get her wisdom, ultimately, I got too busy with other things, and so the project didn't, go forward. But personally, what I did was some of the Japan Asia 21 fellows and I got together to look at the various textbooks and also to learn about the Japanese government's standards on what needs to go into textbooks. And I actually learned, to my great surprise, that the Ministry of Education actually has great guidelines on how certain things should be described. So that was a great learning of myself and learning about Japan itself. And some of those things that I probably wouldn't have thought to learn, just being in corporate Japan. And also Wendy Cutler before she joined the Asia Society.
Right.
So I had a chance to have a conversation with her at one of the Asia 21 programs.
Right.
So we learned from her as well.
Well,
that was in Hong Kong, I think.
No, it was in Seoul in 2017. You and
it was in Seoul. Yes.
Yeah. I even remember the name of the session there because I was doing that. It says like leading in a man's world or something. It was about negotiations, right?
That's right. Yes.
Yeah. It was in Seoul in 2017. Yes.
In fact, I think it was my first time having sort of a formal conversation or interview with somebody so senior in a public setting. And I remember being very nervous, making sure to prepare. So from the interviewing, public speaking perspective, the Asia Society and Asia 21 prepped me well, trained me.
I'd be remiss there if I didn't mention about how so many Asia 21 Japan fellows are integrated with Asia Society Japan Center. In fact, I talk about how Asia 21 has this long-term dividend, which is, I think, 8 Asia 21 alumni are the founding members of Asia Society Japan Center. Right. And I know you guys are very involved with because James Kondo is the head of, Japan Center. And how often do you guys meet? What's the role you guys play in helping Japan Center with the programs and other activities?
It's very difficult to say that we actually meet on a regular basis. But I think the core that we have amongst us is that we want to contribute in ways that we can individually. So not necessarily as the Asia 21 group, but wherever we have interest, we want to contribute that way. So for example, Daisuke, he's very involved in science. So I know that he's involved in making sure that he contributes from that perspective. I have been, as you know, very interested in women's empowerment. So when we celebrated the Year of Japan at the Asia Society Japan Center, I contributed a program for that and actually invited Carol Gluck to be part of that panel. So not so much as a class or as a group, but I think there is this core, the fundamental thinking that we want to contribute and we should contribute in ways we can, because the Asia Society and Asia 21 have done so much for us. And also having seen those who are great supporters of the Asia Society. I mentioned to you, Ronnie Chan, but I just remember 20 years ago how generous he was in sponsoring us. And I think, 20 years later, we want to do similar things. Of course, not to the same extent as Ronnie, but.
And now that, this is the 20th anniversary and, we're thinking of another 20 years, Claire, and beyond. But looking ahead, what role would you like to see Asia 21 play in shaping leadership across the region? And how can Asia Society actually support Asia 21's alumni engagement in a deeper level?
So I think, there's always this discussion of, what is sort of the KPI. And I think early on, there was a push to have the Asia 21 come up with a project or projects that we could work on, which, I think is not a bad idea. But at the same time, the spontaneous supporting of each other on the various projects that the Asia 21 fellows are already working on, that is a great idea. And so I like the way in which the Asia 21 is currently run with these, labs. I think those are great ideas. And maybe one way to push those forward would be to showcase them more, certainly at the Asia Society level. So that I think, we feel like in the Asia 21, although we may not necessarily know each one of the projects that many of us are working on, we know that people are helping each other. People have wonderful ideas, but that may not necessarily be something that is known to the wider Asia Society community. Correct me if I'm wrong, but to share that, I think would be a great idea.
Right. No, you're right. Even we as organizers, because there are so many, like over 1,000, Claire, and then quite a few, like 400-500 are very active. Even we don't even know all those organic collaborations that happen. So we always go back. So we've started this whole hashtag because of Asia 21. So we're trying to say we want to capture what you guys are working on. What has this network, what has it led to? So we're trying to capture all that, and we will make sure to share them widely. You're right about telling that story, Asia 21 story, to the wider audience here. As a representative of the 2006 class, and of course, with the benefit of 2 decades of experience and engagement with this community that we have built together, Claire. We are now at the cusp of announcing the class of 2026, the incoming cohort of fellows. What message would you like to share with this incoming cohort of 2006 class fellows? We'll be announcing at next month. So with your wisdom, your engagement, with your experience, what would you like to advise them on or about?
So I was looking back on the homepage for the Asia 21, looking at the picture from 2006. We definitely looked younger. I was looking at my bio too from back in 2006. Back then I wasn't, maybe I was leading a small team within the legal department, but I certainly wasn't head of legal. I certainly wasn't the head of the North American operation. So I didn't necessarily have those leadership roles. But to also look at, where my classmates were, they were not who they are today. And I can certainly say that I've learned greatly from not just my classmates, but from the Asia Society network generally. So I know much more about, Japan, as I said. I have much more of this multilateral view on the world, not just US, Japan, bilateral. I have gained leadership skills by being given opportunities to moderate and to interview and speak publicly. And I also feel that I'm definitely more grounded in that I know where to go to for real information on the ground. Because, there's so much information on the internet, but to have this trusted community of people who are actually on the ground, one can learn so much. And I think in order to become leaders, you really need the right source of information in order to make the right decision, or what seems to be the right decision at that time. And there's so much to gain from being part of this community. But also at the same time, I think, there's a lot that one can give to the community too. So, what I've learned from the Asakuni Shrine, of course, I gave that feedback to my classmates and the other Asia 21 people. That's the kind of information that I have gained, but I could also share. So it goes both ways. Much to learn, but also much to contribute.
Right. One thing that you'll probably remember, we used to talk about how Asia 21 is by for Asia 21 themselves, right? So it's about making that effort, investing your time and efforts to learn and teach. So I think it's a two-way street.
It's definitely a two-way stream.
Yeah. Thank you, Claire. So we're at the end of our taping here. So I want to have you complete this sentence. Because of Asia 21,
Because of Asia 21, I am wiser. And what I mean by that is that I have this trusted community of friends throughout the Asia Pacific region, and vicariously, I gain from their experiences, their knowledge, and their good judgment. And for which, because of their wisdom, I am wiser.